Welcome back. This is the Alchemist Nation podcast. My name is Walter Morello. I get to travel across the country and discuss mindfulness, success, results for real estate professionals all across the country. And today I have a very special guest. Although she's not a massive real estate investor, she's all about mindfulness. And when it comes to real estate and success, you have to be very fully aware of what you're doing in every moment because it's so easy to give up and fall into a rut. And so you have to be very focused on the right mindset all the way through the transactions once you own the property and then holding it for the long term. Yurika Vu, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much, Walter, for having me. Excited.
So I see you did your hair for us. I did my hair. I shined up real nice for you.
Haven't put on like makeup for all y'all.
Yes, I did the same. I just trimmed my beard, made sure it was lined up for you. So Yurika, you got an event coming up. You've been promoting it for a while now. You sent it out to over 35,000 people. How did you come to understand that mindset was so important?
Yeah, very good question. So I think one of the reasons why I chose this topic of mindset at the early beginning and part of the year is because we're in end of February, right? Going into March. A lot of people's New Year's resolutions have fallen off the train, and then they're in this mindset of like, oh, okay, well maybe next year, right? But I want to just like kickstart people. Like you don't have to wait till New Year's to start a new goal. Like I'm goal setting throughout the year. I mean, I have major goals for the year, but as I mark them off, as they're checked off, I'm like, hey, next goal, right? And so that's one thing. And I do believe that a lot of that is mindset. Do we say, oh, I failed on my New Year's resolution, so I give up for the rest of the year? Guys, we're only in February. You still have 10 more months. Like, what are you going to do with those 10 months? And so it's really the shift in mindset of like, okay, I fell off for a week. Let me get back on, right? And so it's really starting to become curious, like what are the mindsets of people who don't fail or who seem successful, who are wealthy, who have amazing relationships. And so I put together a series called Mindset Mastery, in which I interviewed 8 experts, including Walter, on mindsets of successful people. And then if we don't have that mindset, how do we start to shift? So I ask for tangible strategies that you can start to implement in your daily life that don't take, like 30 minutes, an hour a day, but it's just like these small little things that we just shift or we are consciously aware of. And then from awareness, then you can start to make a change. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I like that. I like that it's little shifts. It's not big things. Like people don't have to go and change everything about their lives to be successful. It's just a little shift, a little mindset change goes a long way, right? It's little habits. So I'm
Yes.
sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, no, totally. I love that you said that because I just finished reading this book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. All he talks about are tiny, tiny habits. He's like, hey, like if you don't like flossing, just floss one tooth. That's all. Like that's your goal for the day, right? And so I implemented something like that. So he has 3 things. All human behavior is like this. It is a prompt, and then you have the behavior, and then you have a celebration. So this works kind of negatively also. If you think about your phone, let's say you get a notification, right? So you get this little ding. We automatically go and pick up our phone. We don't even think about it, right? We just pick up our phone and we're like, oh, somebody liked my post. Like the picking up the phone is the behavior. Somebody liked my post is the celebration. It's like the serotonin and endorphins that get released in your brain. So that just reinforces that behavior. It becomes unconscious. If you think about like 20 years ago when we didn't have cell phones, like that wasn't a thing. But now it's like even the 5-year-old is just like, oh, mommy, your phone is ringing, like, or, oh, you got this thing, your phone made some noise, and then they just pick it up. It's just this automatic behavior. So what BJ Fogg talks about is then being intentional about the habits that we want to create, right? So if we understand those 3 things, you have a prompt, you have a behavior, and then you have a celebration, then we can consciously and like with intention create new habits. So I'll give you an example. Like one of mine is after I go to the bathroom, after I go pee or go to the bathroom, I have a pull-up bar right next to my bathroom. And then so I do one pull-up, right? Like one pull-up, and then after I'm done, I'm like, yes, you got this, right? Like there's the celebration. So I keep doing that, and now I'm up to like I could do like 8 in a row, right? And that's the thing. It's like if I just do one every single day for a week, for 2 weeks, now I built the strength to be able to do 5, to do 10, right? And so then fitness is now part of. It's not like, oh, I have to go to the gym and work out for 30 minutes or an hour. It's like it's just built in through my day because I have that natural prompt to go to the bathroom after.
Yeah,
So anyways, I love that.
I like
And
that.
so that's implementing small little
So
habits.
that's it's a unique strategy. I have something similar I do. So if I have to go to the bathroom but I'm working, I'm like, you don't get the reward yet. They finish this project, and I'm sitting there like, oh my god, I gotta finish this. It sometimes doesn't work in my favor, but for the most part, it motivates me to finish whatever I'm doing. And then as soon as I like finish, I'm like, thank God, let's go. That's my celebration. So maybe it's in reverse, but it works. It's effective.
Yeah, yeah. Well, women, I don't encourage you to do that because, like, we're more susceptible to bladder infections. So if you need to go to the bathroom.
Run it. Don't do as I do. Do as Eureka suggests. So, so Eureka, how did you get into mindfulness in the first place? How did you discover its importance? Why it makes sense to be in the moment. Because it is true that you're more powerful in the moment. You can't do anything in the past. There's nothing to be done back there, and the future is yet to be decided. There's nothing to do there either. So fear is in the future, depression's in the past, and the only joy you actually get to experience is in the present. How did you get to that understanding or the discovery of the importance of mindfulness in success?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a journey, right? So I think I shared with you a little bit about my story in our previous call, but so I've only been on this journey for about 5 years now, and
Only 5 years is a good time to be on the mindfulness journey.
yeah,
So if you
mindfulness
could,
and
and I
personal
know your
development.
story, I know your story a little bit about it, but
Yeah,
if you could share just a little bit so that the people listening kind of know where you're coming from, because they suffer the same things, right? I think
yeah,
everybody
sure.
can relate.
So 5 years ago, I was in a relationship. I was engaged, actually. And even prior to that, I was living the ladder lifestyle, ladder, like, climbing the ladder lifestyle, where I was always like, okay, I got to do this. If I get to a good college, then I'll be happy. Get to a good college, like, okay. And then like, oh, if I only got a good job, oh, okay, well, maybe I need to go to grad school. So I did that. Oh, if I only made this dollar amount, then I'll be happy, right? So I was constantly chasing this happiness. Like on the outside, I looked like I had it all. I was driving a BMW. I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Mountain View. I had money. I had everything, and yet, like inside, I was still so like unhappy. And I dealt with reoccurring like episodes of depression since I was in high school. I dealt with eating disorders, and this, you know, I I just did not love myself, and I couldn't really understand why. And so, with that kind of mindset and where I was at, I was in a relationship and engagement, and we bought a house and we did everything. We did the whole like engagement party. Our families met and everything, and that relationship fell apart because I was not happy. And it got to a point where, like, I'm so stubborn. Like, if I commit to something and I say, like, okay, I'm going to do it, which, marriage is a huge commitment. I was like, I'm going to make this work. And I was so headstrong, saying, like, I'm going to make this work. And the reality of it, my body was starting to deteriorate. I felt I fell into depression again. And then I was in multiple like times in the ER, in the hospital. I was going to therapy. I couldn't eat anymore. I lost so much weight. Um, like I was like 80 pounds or something. And my doctor was like, if you don't change something, you're literally at that point of malnutrition where your organs are going to start failing. And I specifically remember this moment where I was sitting on the couch and my heart started to, like, it felt like I was having a heart attack. My heart was like starting to squeeze. And then I was like, right, like, and I couldn't breathe. My heart was just, I was like, oh crap, is my heart starting to fail? And that was like a real scare moment for me. And And then, of course, then I went to the doctor and tried to get all this like physical stuff. And again, they're just like, you need to eat, like you need to eat. But I literally, I couldn't eat. Like I physically was getting nauseous every time. I remember I could only eat carrots. That was like the only thing that I could eat that didn't make me feel nauseous. Because I was dealing with stomach ulcers, right? So my body was just telling me, like, you're not okay. Hey, listen to me. You are at your wit's end. You need to change something. And then of course, then at one point I found myself in the ER. And then because I had actually taken, I was so tired of it. I just wanted to disappear. I took all of my pills that I had and I just took them all and I chased it down with alcohol. So obviously this is not the first time I did this. So this time I was like, I'm chasing it down with alcohol because I think I just hit that point where I was like, I just don't care to exist anymore. And I
Yeah,
think
and I think
everybody,
it's important to recognize that a lot of people do have this experience, and I've gone through it myself, where the contemplation of sticking around just wasn't as satisfying as being done with everything, and I discovered that life can be so much better if you just don't take anything seriously and you just
mhm,
take yourself less seriously. So when you're at this lowest point, right? This, I know the story, you end up at the hospital, and uh, you end up making a decision. What was that decision?
that decision was either I'm going to die, die right here, or I'm going to make a choice to live for me. And I need to make changes and I need to make uncomfortable changes and I need to disappoint people. And at least let me try that. And yeah, so within 2 weeks,
So so before we go to the getting better part, who
yeah,
did you end up having to disappoint?
oh man. Well, first my fiance that time. And I think the hardest was my family. I think coming from an Asian I'm first generation here, there was a lot of shame. Um, there was a lot of like, I didn't even want to talk about it. I wanted to hide it. Um, and that was really hard.
Yeah, I get it. Our family's supposed to be the most supportive people in our lives, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, for a lot of just people in general, because we're not even talking about success in business right now. We're talking about success in life, like having a purpose and feeling good about what the things you're doing. Like there's just family doesn't always support you the way that you need to be supported. They support in the way they feel is right, but it's not always actually helpful. you know and so your story is really of like a family that loves you but is actually detrimental to your survival, detrimental to your good psyche. And even though you love them and you want to, you don't want to say anything negative about the way that your experience was, at the same time, people have to understand that you can't always trust your family and your friends to support you in the way that you need to be supported. And I think a lot of well-intentioned families are the cause of people going into deeper depressions, and maybe not coming out of them ever, and ending like their existence in general. So it's important to really just who cares if like what you're giving to somebody is the right advice. Like sometimes it's just listen, just listen and listen to what's going on in their head and what they want and what they're looking to do. And like, who cares if you think it's right or wrong? Like support them, because they need that
Yeah.
support.
Yeah. And as a
So
supporter, I mean, what I wish that I heard from my parents' mouth or from my friends, well, my friends were pretty supportive of me, but for my parents and family was, I wish they asked me, like, I'm so sorry, like, how can we support you?
yeah,
That's what I wanted to hear. But to your point, Walter, obviously a couple years down the road when I did a lot of like healing, like self-healing with my relationship with my parents is, you know, just realizing that they are just operating in what they know and the patterns and belief systems that they acquired from their parents. And there's this whole concept of generational suffering. And I also have to understand, like, my parents grew up in a different country. They had a different life. Marriage was not the same thing for them back then as it is for us now, right? So it's like they are just recycling their old patterns, and they're doing the best that they can with the skills and knowledge that they have. And from there, I was able to find grace and also state my boundaries. Like, I literally was telling my mom, like 3 years down later, she still brings him up. And I'm like, Mom, could you please stop bringing him up? Like, it's 3 years, like, let me move on, and just was really firm about my boundaries. And now sometimes she brings it up and it's just like, it doesn't trigger me anymore. Right? Because once you do that healing, you're free. Nobody has that over you. Nobody has that power over you.
That is such a powerful shift, and such a powerful awareness. How would you say, like, if you give somebody an example or an exercise to go through so that they can get that sort of transformation going on for themselves, if so it doesn't have to get that bad, so it doesn't have to get to the point where they're like, yeah, you know what, like, whatever, done. Like, if you're experiencing any kind of emotional depression or anxiety, what would you say is an exercise to pay attention to what's going on? Like, what would you say is a good tool or something that anybody could use any time during the day? Because we talk a lot about entrepreneurialism, we talk a lot about real estate, and we suffer the same experiences, right? Like, even though the dollar amounts are huge, they're the same level of stress. I don't care if I'm working on a $1 million deal, right? So if it's $1 million or multi-million dollar deal, or if it's buying that first 3 family for $250,000, like those are anxiety inducing, oh my God, the deal fell apart, depression inducing, like, I don't know if the money will be there in time, or, the tenant's not paying, or whatever those, like, there's so many situations in real estate where a mindfulness exercise would be so valuable, just to take it in and be like, this is long-term, right? This is not a short-term experience. I could always sell the property, but don't, because you lose money when you sell. So it's, what's a good exercise we give people?
Yeah, I would say watch your thoughts. So a lot of times we get so caught up in our thoughts, they become who we are. So if you're practicing the thoughts of like, oh my gosh, what if this deal doesn't go through? Oh my gosh, this tenant is not paying, and you're recycling that, what the feeling that you're going to create is anxiety. If you're recycling the thoughts of like, man, I really suck, I don't think I'm a really good, real estate agent, I lost money here, then we start, whatever we say, we start to find evidence to support that. That's the way our brains work. And so if you can be aware of the thoughts that you're having, from there, you can actually make a conscious choice to choose different thoughts. Our thoughts create the feelings that we experience. And based on our feelings, then we create actions and behaviors. Like, have you ever been in an argument where you're just like so angry, you just, vomit a whole bunch of like very mean words without being even consciously aware? That's just our reaction, right? So in mindfulness, what we do is we take a step back. And even you can just notice, like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm getting angry, like my palms are sweating, I'm starting to feel this rage in my stomach. Like, I noticed that, so I know nothing good can come out of this. Let me take 10 minutes to like breathe it out, to clear my head, and then I can come back to approach this conversation in a more calm way. A lot of times what happens is our feelings and our emotions, they just cloud our vision. It's literally wearing like glasses that are foggy. They're not your true self. Emotions are fleeting, right? And how many times do our emotions lie to us? So it's one thing to like acknowledge and notice your emotions. I think that's part of mindfulness too. It's not pushing them away, it's not denying it. It's saying like, okay, you're here, I notice that you're here, and I'm going to sit with you until you feel heard. Like, sometimes I think about my emotions like as a separate, like a child. If this child is sad, okay, I hear you, I see you, and like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say just notice the thoughts that you are recycling in your head over and over again. That's what's creating your feelings.
I like
So
that.
of course, I'm not a psychologist, even though I did study psychology in college. That I was studying to be a psychologist. But like, I'm not a medical expert to treat depression, and I know depression is on a large scale, like a capital D. Depression is very serious. It's not just in the mind. It affects our body. It affects everything of us. So, but that's what I would recommend. Just
I
notice.
like that. And just like when we're talking about Bitcoin or stocks or real estate, like, I want to, I always clarify, hey, this is not financial advice. It's just what I've done. It's what I do. It's the same thing with you, right? Hey, this is not medical advice. This is, try it out. If it fits, if it works, but still seek out professional help. There's no shame in, hiring people who are smarter than you to solve problems you don't understand.
Yeah.
And also, positive thoughts go a long way. Like a little bit of paying attention to your mind and what's going on, understand that if you do think about things that are like anxiety causing, like your heart will start pounding, your breath will get heavy, like you'll just feel it. And if you think thoughts that make you happy, like you'll feel that lucidity, that calmness. So you have control over what your physical body starts doing, right? You do have some control with your mind, but it takes exercise, it takes practice. And so mindfulness training that you have coming up, Yurika, it is a powerful training. You've got some great speakers, myself included, Doug McGurk, Fred Posimo. These are guys who I hang out with a lot. You'll be there hosting the entire event. It's 8 days, 7 days, 8 days.
Yeah,
If you could
it's 7 days.
talk a little bit about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's so it's 7 days, and you have like one expert like Walter coming and sharing a quick 30-minute interview on mindset. And then the week after, we are going to go into a 5-day challenge. So, our worst habit is to consume and not apply, because it's just you don't get fit by reading a book, right? So then it turns into like a take action challenge. So then the following week you start to implement, and then from there you'll start to see these small little shifts appear in your life. And from there you get the confidence, because if you don't take action, you don't get the confidence. If you've never sold a deal before, right, a real estate deal, you don't have the confidence that you can. But your first sale, you're like, I got this, right? I am the best real estate agent. So that's kind of the format of the series, and anybody can, and you're gonna have like millions of dollars, like Walter. um, so anybody, this is a free series. I did it from a heart to serve, because I see so much suffering in the world, especially, in COVID. That's another thing. Like there's people who are thriving, and there's a lot of people who are like, F this, like so negative, and they're, so like I was so curious, like what is in that gap? Like why are some people thriving, and why are some people just suffering? And so anyways, people can register for free at mindsetmastery.live, and just put in your email address, your name and your email address, and then you'll get a confirmation email from me, and then the rest is history.
I like it. It's mindsetmastery.live or .live, because that's what we're here for, to make sure you live a better life. And if you're listening right now, do us a big favor and go to alchemistnation.com. And actually, alchemistnation.com is a great place to be, and there's a lot of free stuff out there. But the ask I'm looking for is iTunes. Go to iTunes and go to the Alchemist Nation podcast. Give us a great review. Go in, put a positive review. Be honest. If it's something that you're getting value from, then absolutely share it with somebody. The best gift you can give somebody is knowledge, education. They say you can feed a person for a day, but if you teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. Mindset is an internal, eternal product. You have to get motivation daily. You have to go. You wouldn't shower, once a week. You wouldn't shower once a year. So getting that motivation, getting the inspiration, and listening to people who are very successful. I strive to, on the podcast, always bring on guests who are absolutely crushing it, keeping things going, doing big deals, and staying positive. And Yurika is a perfect example of why it's so important to stay in mindfulness, why it's so important to stay positive and surround yourself with people who are thinking positively. And if the podcast is the only thing that you have right now that is positive in your life, then stick to it, share it, be bringing other people to it. and build yourself a community of people who are positive, because over time, you and that tribe will go out and do the things that you want to accomplish. And you may have to let few people go. There's some people who just aren't meant to go the long distance with you. And what you're looking to create for yourself may be different from what they're looking to create for themselves. Some people don't want as much as you do. Some people don't want the life that you want. Some people don't have the ambitions or dreams that you have, but that doesn't make yours any less special. In fact, if anything, they're more special because they're yours. And we appreciate you listening, appreciate you hanging out with us, and we want to see you be successful. So, Yurika, I've got a question I'd like to ask all of the entrepreneurs I've brought on here. If you go back to your 20-year-old self, you go back to that version of you who's just kind of, figuring life out, not 100% sure what direction to go in, what 3 pieces of advice would you give 20-year-old Yurika so she gets to where she is today faster and happier?
Yeah. Sorry, could we just go back and let me just wrap up my journey, because I feel like we left them
Yeah,
hanging.
absolutely.
I was in the ER.
Yeah.
But at that pivotal point, then I decided, like, I need to change, right? Make some uncomfortable changes. And then that's where I started my journey. I started to question everything out of curiosity, right? Not question with judgment, but it's like questions like, do I even want to get married? That was my number one question. And then from there, it came to like my beliefs. I started to question my values and my beliefs. Like, are these mine, or are they just inherited from society, from my family, from my parents? And then within 2 weeks, I was off all of my meds. I was eating. I was happy. I was in Mexico on a vacation. And then I've just been on this beautiful journey of personal development and understanding self, mindfulness. And I definitely have not suffered since, because I was suffering.
And it's been 4 years since you made that decision. And yeah, you're right. I forgot to go and give them the good stuff, right? So, yeah, you've financially become extremely stable, really, really cool financial situation. You're an investor in stocks and other assets, and you really now you built this coaching company out of a desire to serve, out of a desire to help and add value. And I was really impressed that you do this training for free. You do a lot of coaching and training for free, which is really impressive. And obviously you have paid programs, but that's for the people who really need that special treatment, that next level, like, hey, Eureka, I need a little bit more. But the amount of content you put out for free is absolutely astounding. It's amazing. Just you got such a big heart, and there's so much you're putting out there, which is, it's really cool to see fellow entrepreneurs saying, I've been successful. Here's like the ladder, like here's the next step. So if we could, now that we know you're successful, right? If we could go back, what would you do? What would you say to your 20-year-old self? 3 things,
Man.
3 pieces
Yeah.
of advice.
So the first thing is understand self. And so get into personal development. Personal development means developing your person, right? Developing yourself, understanding yourself. Because we always hear like, oh, you should love yourself. But like, how can you love yourself if you don't actually truly understand yourself? So that means like read books, read books that are different than your thinking, right? It's going to widen your perspective. Get a coach, invest in yourself, because you're the most important person in this world. You're stuck with you forever. So if you're not happy with you, you need to start changing something, right? And you can only change by investing and learning about yourself. So that's my number one thing. Number two is find mentors. So people who are wealthier than you, people who are more successful than you, people who you look up to. And these mentors don't necessarily mean like, oh, I need to hire like 10 different coaches in 10 different areas, but they can be mentors from books. Like, for example, like Thich Nhat Hanh is, I consider him one of my mentors. He's he's the most like famous mindfulness monk out there, right? And he just like, I just read his books and apply it into my life. So find a mentor. And, if it wasn't for a mentor in my 20s, I would have not started investing. And that has tangible results, 10 years later, like 1,000-fold results, right? Because I had a mentor who just tipped me off on like, hey, and this is what he said: don't work for your money, make your money work for you.
Yeah. Yes. The point is not to work, it's to generate income.
Yeah. And that at 20 years old, I had the opposite. I was like, no, I'm going to save, which I also think is important to get into that habit. Then once you save, like you need to invest because that money is, you're either going to live your life working or your money is going to work for you and you can become wealthy.
I like that.
The third one is, of course, because this is a money podcast, money hygiene, right? So you need a solid understanding of money, and Walter is the guy to learn from. If I met Walter at 20 years old, oh man, I think my portfolio would be like 1,000 times 1,000.
Keep it going.
Right? So this just means like the basics of like when you're 20 and you're a college student, you might be broke, I don't know, putting aside $100 a month. And if you get into that habit of always putting aside money into your savings, and then learning from mentors to like how to invest, what to invest in, that money will grow exponentially by the time you are ready to retire.
I like
So
that.
those would be like my 3 pieces of advice.
Yurika, those are really powerful 3 pieces of advice. Your mindset is one of abundance. You have the alchemist mindset. You're a giver and you're looking to help more people. If you can, what are the dates for the upcoming event?
Oh yeah, that's coming up. It's starting on Monday, March 1st, for 7 days, and then we go into a 5-day challenge the week after. So that's March 1st, mindsetmastery.live or mindsetmastery.live, as Walter said. I never thought about it that way. It's totally free. Really it comes from the reason why I even started a coaching business is because I don't want people to suffer. Nobody has to get to the point where I got in order to make a change. Like, don't wait to get there because it takes longer to get out of that.
Yeah.
So my mission and purpose in this world is to reduce suffering for all humans and animals. I have an animal rescue, a cat rescue, because animals also suffer, and this is where humans we can step in to help. For people, a lot of times it's in our mind. It's this negative rumination, and you get to change that. And so I also do offer, like you said, I do have paid coaching programs. Obviously, those are for like the one-to-one. I have higher end clients, for those people who actually need like the hand holding and the extra push to like how to implement.
I like it. I've got a fire alarm going off, so it's like the sign that it's time to end this podcast. But Yurika Vu, you have been a phenomenal guest. A lot of free giveaways. The mindfulness event is coming up. What time is it? I know it's PST. What time is the event start on Monday?
Yeah, so it's actually not a live event.
Okay.
But if you sign up, you will get 1 email per day for 7 days with the different experts.
Excellent.
So all you got to do is just go to mindsetmastery.live, type in your name, email address, you'll get an automatic confirmation you're in, and then you'll get 1 email per day. And make sure you watch the interviews because they are so good. So good.
I agree. I know a few of the people doing the interviews, and I'm very, very impressed with how they came out. So, Yurika Vu, thank you so much for your time today. Cheers to your success. When you have a choice, always work with the best.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Yurika. Cheers. Bye.